Hello folks, it is Toby from TIJ Music and welcome to a new video. Today it is time for another album review and my first review of the German rock band The Scorpions, and today we're going to be reviewing their 1980 release, as you can see behind me in the vinyl copy, Animal Magnetism. Now this was their 7th studio release by the German rock band The Scorpions of March of 1980, following their most successful album to date, Lovedrive, in 1979, and this was the 5th album that Dieter Dierks had produced for the band, and I apologise in advance if I butcher some of the pronunciations from the guys in the band and people surrounding them. And that run started with In Trance, where Dieter produced, and then it was a run that would continue all the way up to Savage Amusement in 1988. The album went platinum in the US, had 1 million sales, and had 2 minor singles in this country, the UK, Make It Real, and The Zoo, that went to 72 and 75 respectively, so nothing too brilliant. The cover was designed once again by Storm Ferguson from Hypnosis, who was very much known for Pink Floyd's covers, but had also done some of Scorpion sleeves in the past, and a lot of those have been banned. Virgin Killer was banned. Taken by Force, bit of a strange one why Taken by Force was banned. You can understand Virgin Killer and Lovedrive. I'm not going to show them on here because I might get banned myself, but Taken by Force is a strange one that was replaced. So, not to be unkind to the band, but it's quite nice on this cover not to see a picture of the band, because it's a bit tame compared to what some of the brilliant covers were, even though, they were banned pretty quickly. And their bass at the time, Francis Buchholz, said that Herman Rarebell, the drummer, came up with the title Animal Magnetism, and the band all really liked it. So Storm was doing the album covers for Pink Floyd, of course, and he did the one with the guy in the flames, Wish You Were Here. And Storm came up with the idea for the Animal Magnetism cover, and he didn't personally like it, but the rest of the band loved it. But he liked the dog, and you can see the album cover in that corner as well, up there. And it wasn't banned because it probably wasn't so explicit. There was some sort of idea behind it, but there's certainly some sexual connotations behind it, let's just say that. And Klaus Meine, of course, the lead vocalist, said that many of the tracks were inspired by touring the US, particularly The Zoo. So it's 9 tracks on this album. I've got the vinyl sleeve in front of me with all the lyrics written on it. It's a vinyl copy I picked up a few months ago from Discogs. I think it was about £7 or £8. The vinyl sleeve's a bit smudged, but the record itself, which is always the most important thing when I'm buying vinyl, is pretty top-notch. Not just the music, but the quality, the conditions, sorry. But 9 tracks, Make It Real, Don't Make No Promises Your Body Can't Keep, Hold Me Tight, 20th Century Man, Lady Starlight. Then on side 2, we've got Falling in Love, Only a Man, The Zoo, and Animal Magnetism, the title track at the end. So let's get into it then. The first track, Make It Real. I think this is a fairly tame start to the album, to be quite honest, considering some of the heavy stuff that follows it. And when I first listened to this track, I've, to be honest, only heard this album in the last few months. It was just one of those impulse listens. I'd listened to Lovedrive for the first time upon someone's recommendation, and I thought, well, let's see what follows it, because sometimes what follows a great album can either be terrible or very good. It's very rare that it's average. It's either somewhere in between, either very good or terrible compared to Lovedrive. And the good news is this album is very good when you compare it to Lovedrive, and indeed any classic rock, hard rock, heavy metal album, whatever word you want to put in there, depending on your thoughts, of the late 70s, early 80s. And I wasn't really a fan of this track when I first heard the album, but it definitely grew on me over time. Good album track to start this off, and particularly in the late mid-section, the build-up is really great. And the guitars, the drums, and the vocals, it just all sounds so good on this album. It really is. It's really all hooked up. I listened to a review where somebody said that they thought it was rushed and it didn't sound very good, but I think it sounds polished and in some aspects even better than Lovedrive, which is horrible to say to my one of my favourite guitarists of all time, Michael Schenker, who of course played on a few tracks from that release, but Matthias Jabs and Rudolf Schenker on this release are absolutely phenomenal, in top form. So for this track, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's a good album track to get things started, but it's fairly tame. And then we move on to track 2, and this is where the album's true intentions really kick into life in 2 ways. Firstly, the heavy nature of the album is just explored here so well. It's so explicit, it's untrue, with that killer opening riff and drum beat. You're like, wow, here we go, ladies and gents and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a really, really good track, and of course, Secondly, the sexual connotations. I mean, the track to this, the title to this track, I'm sure would make people cringe if it came out today. Don't make no promises your body can't keep. But nevertheless, it is killer. The track doesn't shy away from its sexual connotations. It's fair to say that the title track does more than enough to hint at that. But it's just classic hard rock with a killer guitar. If it's really essential listening, I would say. And I have to give this one a 10 out of 10. We then get to track number 3 on side 1, which is Hold Me Tight, and it's a bit of a break from the hard-hitting duo that kick off the album, although it is of course fair to say that the second track, Don't Make No Promises, is far heavier than the first. And this one, again, is another good album track. It's slow, menacing almost, and it's a theme that will develop over the album with quite a few of the tracks. There's an excellent slow sort of ominous guitar riff here with an excellent drum beat to go along with it. It's a solid album track. 8 out of 10 for me. I wouldn't give it much more, but it is a great track and belongs on this album perfectly. Then track number 4, this is another 10 out of 10 for me. 20th Century Man. Like Hold Me Tight, sure, it's a bit of a break from the hard-hitting duo that preceded it, but the slow tempo here only adds to the track. Excellent guitar riff, excellent licks. The opening to the track is just superb. Guitar solo's excellent as well. Top marks, 10 out of 10. Then this final track on side 1, and whoever thought this would belong on this album, Lady Starlights. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. I just can't believe this is on the same album as Don't Make No Promises. It's fair to say that on most Scorpions albums there's that sort of customary ballad, but it works beautifully, and it just feels like it belongs on this album. It's by far the most lengthy track on side 1, and slightly longer than the title track, which you'll find at the end of side 2. So the one criticism here is that you could say it does drag along slightly. I've heard reviews saying that, and I do agree to some extent that it doesn't really go anywhere in the midsection. But then that guitar solo that follows the midsection is well worth waiting for. And really, that's its only criticism. I can't find anything else to criticise. The string section is just beautiful. The only Scorpions track to date, as of the 23rd of March 2021, that's got a string section in. And it is just excellent. How could a band that Don't Make No Promises pull that off so well and pull this off so well? I just don't get it. It really does beg a belief. Then we go into side 2. The start of side 2 is a track called Falling in Love. And this is a 9 out of 10 start off side number 2. And it's fair to say each track on this album, there's no exception. There are better tracks than others, but by no exception, every single track on this album grips you straight away. And this just is no different. In fact, this is probably the best example. There's an excellent hard riff to suck you in. Aggressive lyrics. A lot of the lyrics written for this album by Herman Rarebell, the drummer. Written music and lyrics by Rarebell here. Lyrics for Only a Man, the next track by Rarebell. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of the 9 tracks whereby Herman Rarebell either wrote the music or the lyrics. So he had a big part here, and the lyrics are just fantastic here. Another great track that just follows the formula and does it so well. Hard, fast rock, that's all we asked for from this. And that guitar solo again. I mean, Matthias Jabs. Wow. Absolutely fantastic. I'm sure, as any guitarist would be, that Michael's out of the picture, Michael Schenker, because we all know how good Michael Schenker is, but Matthias is really holding up to that, and absolutely fantastic guitar solo and fantastic guitar work from both Matthias and Rudolf Schenker throughout this album, really. Track number 7 then, Only a Man. This is an 8 out of 10. You could argue this is probably the only oddball on the album where the lyrics don't really match up to the rest of the content. It's okay, don't get me wrong, but and I guess as a German band, you can't really take too much of their lyrics. A lot of their lyrics are basic, very much to the point. You could say that, and you definitely know what they're talking about. But nevertheless, it's a great rocker, slightly different tempo to the rest, and I personally feel the bit where it goes, now you know how I feel, nothing is real, and the guitar riff that follows that is sublime. It's heavy, it's aggressive, it's everything you'd want from this, and it's a real debate, isn't it? Whether this is a hard rock album or whether it's a heavy metal album or whether it goes into sort of, I don't think thrash metal as such, but it's very much on the lines of heavy metal, dark metal, all that sort of stuff, all those sort of connotations. And in areas, this album is really, really heavy, and some of the guitar solos here really, really prove that. And I think only giving this track an 8 is actually quite harsh. And as I've put in my notes, that Jabs guy, not half bad, is he? Penultimate track then is The Zoo, and if I didn't give this a 10, I think I'd be lynched down in the comments. It's probably the most recognisable track, at least universally, from this album. Don't get me wrong, the lyrics are abysmal. They are terrible. We eat the night, we drink the time, make our dreams come true. And hungry eyes are passing by on streets we call the zoo. You know, it isn't great. Lyrics by Klaus Meine here, and yeah, the lyrics aren't great. But you know what? It works. It works so well. It's slow, but it's melodic. Those are two things you can't really put together so much. I saw from somebody from Megadeth. I'm not particularly au par with what's the word? Au fait. That's the one. Faux pas. I'm not particularly au fait with the music of Megadeth, but one of their members said that basically this track just gave license for hard rock and metal bands to have a slow but melodic track, and you know, it's absolutely right. Those elements don't really come together often, and that's what makes this so unique. The guitar solo, heavy, dark, thrilling. That talk box as well is really, really cool that Jabs uses on this track. And to be honest, now I've heard it with it, I couldn't imagine the track without it. Just all adds to the atmosphere, and surely The Zoo has got nothing to do with the fact it's animals. Or maybe I'm looking too deep, I don't know. But a 10 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic track. And like that, it's gone so quickly, we come to the last track. The title track. Animal Magnetism. This, another 10 out of 10. You wanted dark? Whew, another level. The album just goes to another peak, really, with the last two tracks. There are some excellent tracks, don't get me wrong, on this album. But the last two tracks are sublime. Really are. And the title track is a long time coming, but it is very, very much worth it. Very worth it. And it's almost Sabbath-esque, reminds me of that sort of Dio era, as do a few of the tracks. And it's just so dark and menacing, and the lyrics are brilliant here. And oh yeah, the guitars again. The drum beat's so menacing, a hard rock gem, really. And that's the title track and the album itself. It is a absolutely fantastic listen. It took me a bit of time to grow into it, and the reason that I ranked this so highly is because I went on a bit of a spree of listening to Lovedrive, then this, and then of course after this I thought, what comes next after this? I listened to Blackout, and I actually think that Lovedrive and Animal Magnetism are very closely matched. I think that this album personally comes out on top for me. And Blackout's a bit of a drop-off after these two. And then, of course, you've got Love at First Sting with a massive Rock You Like a Hurricane and other tracks on there. But I personally think this is the peak of what I've listened to from Scorpions. It's not. I haven't particularly listened to any of their really early stuff. I've listened to a few tracks from In Trance, a few tracks from Taken by Force, and it's all good, but I don't think it matches this, personally. But yeah, a fantastic album. And what I do here, I take an average of all the ratings and deliver a verdict. And the verdict for this is very, very special. 9.11 out of 10. Incredible, really. It's almost the poor middle child, stuck in the middle, like Steelers Wheel, to Lovedrive and Blackout. But as I said, it's arguably the best. It's arguably the best. I think Lovedrive's on par to this, at least on side 1. I think there's a bit of a drop-off with Lovedrive on side 2. You could say the same with this, from some extent. To some extent, you know, I have to be in the mood for falling in love, although it's a great track. Only a Man as well. Could you make some similarities there to some of the tracks on Lovedrive? I'm not sure, but you know, the title track again is brilliant, like Animal Magnetism. It's a very closely run thing between the two albums. It really is. And I've put here as a question to you guys who maybe are more versed with the earlier Scorpions stuff. I haven't particularly explored their early 70s stuff. You know, Lonesome Crow and what's the second album called? Fly to the Rainbow, In Trance, Taken by Force, Virgin Killer. Is that worth listening to? I'm guessing it is, and I'm sure I'll get round to it. But this, an absolutely excellent album in a year of stonker albums. In the turn of the new decade, 1980, I would say AC/DC's Back in Black, Judas Priest, British Steel, Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell. This, Michael Schenker Group's first album, self-titled album. What else did we have in 1980? I'm sure there's plenty of others, but for some reason they're not coming to my head at the moment. But there are actually a few I can think of that aren't very good, so I'm gonna gloss over those. But yeah, some really good releases in 1980 as the turn of the decade started. So I personally think, I'm going to put it out there and be a bit decisive and controversial, this is the best output that at least I've listened to by Scorpions. What do you think? Because I've heard some reviews that say this is poor, heard some that are really good, and that's what I love to see with an album, because there's just that nice thing that people don't agree about albums. It's a great thing, particularly about the likes of Pink Floyd The Wall, of course, that it's one of the most divisive albums to anybody. And it is great to spark some debate, so leave your comments down below with your thoughts. If you haven't listened to this album, feel free to go and listen to it. It is an absolute stonker. If you're a hard rock, heavy metal fan, go and listen to it. Also leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for regular album reviews and top 10s. Thank you very much for watching today. I appreciate your company. I've been Toby from TIJ Music, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye for now.